That
And
is
then she
obviously,
marries me, and she's like,
yeah, but this is what I'm saying. That
and then she's
trauma,
like, I'm not gonna have that. I'm going to control this marriage. I'm going to be the one who's in charge.
because she's had,
It was a
yeah,
whirlwind romance, Farouk. It
okay.
was about 6 months before we actually got married. We met, and then within 6 months we were married. And actually, once I asked her to marry me, from that point on, I felt like I was a passenger. And so she would say little things about my parents, and I'd be like, and I would defend it. And then you get the impression that what you're saying is somehow very, very wrong.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Disqualified Dads. First and foremost, please like, subscribe, and share all videos if you haven't already. And also, if you want to help support the channel, there's a PayPal link in the description. Sponsor, donate, help keep the channel going. Also, I don't have a t-shirt with me. I would have bought a t-shirt for Paul, but I don't have his size at the moment. So I'll send you a t-shirt later on, yeah? But yeah, please, t-shirts, merchandise will be coming out soon. Paul, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Paul. I'm that CMS guy. I've created a channel on TikTok relating to everything to do with the CMS or the child maintenance system. And the reason why I've done that is because I feel that the child maintenance system treats non-resident parents very unfairly and quite discriminatorily. And I believe that it's corrupt in the way that it handles arrears and also payments, and really doesn't really care much about fathers or mothers or even children.
Right, just to confirm, Paul, you're on TikTok. You're that CMS guy on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm that CMS guy. I think everybody that's having a case with the CMS is a CMS guy. So that could be your brother, your sister, your aunt, whoever has a case with the CMS is a CMS guy.
Yes, but what I'm saying is your channel's called that CMS guy, the one with the lion and the sheep. So
That's
people
right.
always,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
the way, I like that. Your logo, I like that.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
very good. Yeah, I did quite like that. I've seen quite a few of your videos.
Thank you.
So, what made you start your channel? Just tell us a bit about why you're here in this space on social media, why you started your channel, and then we can delve into maybe your journey a little bit, and we'll talk. Both of us will talk about obviously the corrupt family court system and the CMS. But yeah, just tell us why you started your channel.
So in about 2010, I went through a divorce, as lots of people do, and I didn't know anything about child support. I didn't know anything about maintenance. I didn't know anything about that, and I was immediately put on child maintenance, the child maintenance system, and they took a whole bunch of money out of my account, which meant I wasn't able to survive. I wasn't able to pay my bills, and I was really quite destitute. And I had a real battle with the CMS in relation to having a fair hearing about how much I earned and having to go to court on a regular basis. And when I went to court, I realized that it's not a personal persecution that I'm experiencing through CMS. It's actually loads of people.
Family court you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the CMS.
Okay, so slow down a bit. So 2010 relationship comes to an end, yeah?
Yeah.
Immediately a CMS application was filed by the ex, I take it, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
And then as soon as you got that letter, or did they have a fixed amount with you, or how was it like? So they sent you a letter saying, look, Mr. Paul, we've calculated based on your salary, as they say, this is what you earn or whatever, and this is what we'll charge you. So just tell us exactly the ins and outs of it, and then what they actually took out, and then
Okay.
So give us the details.
So I qualified as a social worker in 2010, and my marriage kind of ended at the same time.
Okay.
And I was unemployed. I didn't have a job, and I was looking for work, and so therefore I was on benefits. And whilst I was on benefits, I wasn't paying any form of CMS or CSA at the time. I didn't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got a job in Medway as a social worker.
Right.
What's going on there? So I got a job as a social worker in Medway, and shortly after that, the CMS or the CSA at the time, they contacted me and says, you have arrears of about 800 to £2,000.
Arrears.
They said I had an arrears of about £2,000, something like
Okay.
that. And I thought, how is it that I've got arrears
Yeah, when you didn't have
when
a job.
I didn't have a job? How is it possible? So on my first paycheck, they took the whole thing.
Oh my! What the whole?
The whole thing. They just reached into the account and they just took the whole thing.
Was that CSA or the CMS?
That
As we
was
know
the
it.
CSA at that
Right.
time.
So they were corrupt, but clearly corrupt as well. Yeah.
And so I did what any father. It keeps going to
Personal hotspot. Yeah.
personal. Are you getting to a personal hotspot?
So on the next round, we'll just switch the because it's recording. Just switch your Wi-Fi off. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it won't pick anything up. So carry on.
So
So they took your whole, pretty much most of your wages that first month.
they took the whole thing. They took the whole thing out of my account, and I was paying 450 for rent. I was paying 150 for gas and electric. I was paying for petrol. I was a social worker. I needed to be able to get myself around and all that kind of stuff. So I did what anybody would do. That they called the CSA at the time, and I said, "You've taken all my money out of my account. I'm not able to pay my bills. I'm not able to do anything at all." And they said, "It's your responsibility to pay for your child." And I said to them,
I've heard that before. That line, yeah. Someone else said the same thing. They keep running that line, especially that CSA used to run that line.
exactly.
So go on, carry on.
So they said, "It's your responsibility to pay for your child." And I said, "Yeah, I agree. It is my responsibility.
Right.
But if I can't get to work, how is it I'm
You
going
can't
to be
pay.
able to pay child support in order to hold up to my responsibilities?" And the lady, I can't remember, I don't know who she was, but the lady on the other side, she was openly discriminatory about the fact that I hadn't paid the entire arrears at that point. And that was my first real encounter with the CSA at that time. After that, they took out my my monthly payments directly from source.
DOE or
DOE or whatever it's called, yeah.
Deduction of earnings.
And they did that without any kind of written information
Consent
or
or
anything like that.
anything.
They just reached in. They just decided that that's how they were going to
Play
deal
it.
with me.
And that was CSA still, yeah?
That was CSA. That's right.
Right.
And in actual fact, I didn't mind it in the end because it was £200 or £250 a month. It meant that I found it very hard to get this end to meet this end, but it meant that I didn't have to deal with the CSA directly anymore.
You don't have to deal with them. So they just took their whatever the amount was, and then you didn't have to deal with them. And how long did that then go on for?
So I worked in Medway for nearly 5 years, and I was paying regular payments without any issue. As far as I was concerned, the CSA didn't really have much to deal with me. I didn't have anything to do with them. I didn't have anything to do with my ex because she was getting paid, and on that front, there wasn't really any
friction,
any difficulty.
Okay, did you have contact with those kids at the time or not?
That's where the difficulty was. The difficulty from about 2010, when my son was born in 2009, and we broke up in about 2010. And the contact arrangements were stopped as we separated, and it was only through my mum communicating with my ex that about October 2010 contact started to kind of trickle back again. So that was every other weekend.
Okay.
And I was on benefits, so I would use all my benefits to pay for an activity with my son.
Yeah. Okay, so you had contact. I suppose that's one good thing. You had contact. And do you still have contact with that son?
I do, and it's going very well, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah,
but it has been undoubtedly the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life. it culminated in a hearing, which we'll talk about
We'll
later
talk about
on.
that in a minute. Okay, so 5 years you were paying DOE was being taken, money was taken straight out of your account by the CMS for about 5 years, and then you said you ran into some difficulty with them. What happened there? Carry on from there.
So I worked as a social worker, my first post in Medway.
Medway, that's it, yeah.
And after that, I worked in different fields. And because I was working in different fields, I wasn't job hopping, but certain contracts came to an end. And I would communicate with the CSA, and then I would communicate. And what that meant really is that as a locum worker, a social worker, I'd have to contact them, give them the details of. I mean, suppose they've got that information at hand anyway, but I communicated with them. I gave them my bank details. I gave them how much I was earning. I was upfront about it. I was completely transparent about it, and I'd have to give them these details literally every single week for months,
Really?
and months and months. Every time I called them, they said, "You need to hand over your details." I said, "Well, I handed them over last week. We've got no record of it, so you're gonna have to hand it all over again." So you hand it over again, and by the next week they are saying you still owe this amount. You are now in arrears for an even larger amount. Why am I in arrears? I've been giving you my details. Just take the money from the account.
Yeah, this is what I don't understand. How a government department, especially you look back, there was a CSA, yeah. So it was part of the Sister Sally said, part of the DWP, yeah. How a government department can, I mean, that's why in the end it was shut down, yeah, ultimately, yeah. But how can any government department operate like this? I honestly do not understand. Even when we're talking about it, it sort of just phases me to think like you're handing in information week in, week out. They don't know who's got it, they've lost it, and every week they're telling you randomly that no, you're in more arrears, you're in more arrears. It's like a problem that never ends, the CMS.
Exactly, and that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, if you know, I know that you're in construction. That's quite a heavy duty job.
Yeah.
Social work is considered to be one of those jobs which is it's all encompassing.
Yeah, emotionally,
You have to
mentally.
use your mind, your will, your emotions, and there's just reams of paperwork and crisis to deal with, and on the back of that I had this ongoing
Drama.
drama with contact. So that meant that I didn't know whether a contact was going to be withheld or not.
You mean contact with your son?
Contact with my son was going to be withheld, and I was desperately trying to relate to CSA, which was CSA at that time, to because
Okay,
I think
no, but
most fathers out there want to do the right thing, and the right thing is
no, but hold on, go back. So okay, look, you had contact from 2010 October. You had contact with your son every other weekend, yeah.
I did.
Then you got a job. You're saying contact still continued, yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you worried about? Why were you worried about contact being withheld? Is it and how would you? Because obviously you had problems with the CSA, yeah. They were still doing their DOE. They were messing up the details and the numbers and slapping arrears, but you still had contact.
I'll tell you about that as well, because that was quite interesting.
No, but before you go to
They
that,
sent
what?
the information to Northern Ireland for a while. I don't know why.
What do you mean, like just?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it.
Okay, we'll go back after.
We'll go back to that.
Yeah, okay. So, but tell me, like, why were you worried about losing contact? If you had contact, so look, your mum established contact, yeah. Your mum was talking to the ex.
Yeah.
You had regular contact, yeah.
It was regular from about October. I was having every weekend.
Right.
And then in 2011, it seemed to be, well, this is a terrible situation. I'm going through a divorce. The house has been taken. I'm being accused of domestic violence, but yet I've got contact with my son, and I'm happy about that. I can at least see him. I'm looking for a work, but if I didn't, as I started to work in 2011, it was about June I started my job. She was relating to other individuals who were then saying to me, if you don't provide this piece of information, you're not seeing your son this week.
Information as in what? Like,
Well, whatever information they need at the time.
that's the CSA.
No. This is
the ex.
This is my ex, and that's what I'm saying to you. She was yanking contact on the basis of information that she wanted from me, whatever that information was.
Okay, right. So sorry. So the CSA situation was playing out as it was. They were
That's a
So
story playing out.
so let's just work this out. You're obviously going through. You've got this job. You're trying to knuckle down and work. You're a social worker. You're trying to help other people.
Yeah.
You've got the CSA constantly with this financial burden that's on you, and you don't mind paying for your kids. You want to pay for your kids, obviously, but it's this the incompetence, the false arrears, and
you
all
think
the...
it's incompetence. That's what
Okay, you're right. Yeah. So not the incompetence. This targeted, systematic abuse that you're getting from the CMS on one side.
Yep.
They're trying to slap arrears on you. They're like an organized criminal gang. That's what they are.
But at the time, I did perceive it as just pure incompetence.
That's what, exactly.
Yeah.
So you got that playing out, and unfortunately, at the same time, you've got contact with your son, but then that's constantly hanging in the balance because the ex wanted some information of you, and every time you never gave this information, she would start playing with the contact. So you had that hanging over you.
Yeah. So it was like a threefold prong attack.
Yeah.
So I had the CSA giving me grief. I obviously had the stress of work, which is what.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. This. I think that should be all right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Apologies. One of the lights went over. It's getting a bit windy. Right. Sorry. So you had this three-pronged attack on you all the time.
It was literally all the time, and it really did feel like that as well. It felt like within that particular dynamic where you are now on CSA, you've been accused of domestic violence, and you're seeing your son, and you're working. I'm working with vulnerable children. I'm DBS checked. I'm qualified as a social worker. It felt like I'm in this peculiar situation where I'm a trusted individual, and yet I'm being treated like I am a completely untrusted individual.
Yeah, I think the thing is, again, Paul. So even when we talk about this now, I'm just trying to imagine someone listening to this. They just think, "Oh yeah, the guy was going through a hard time." They don't realize how crushing that pressure is.
It really was.
The pain of this broken contact with your children, and then when the CMS have that power to go into your, how violating that feels. I think people have no idea how emotionally and mentally crushing it is as a human being, and to walk around like this and function on a day-to-day. I mean, this is what people don't realize.
Yeah.
And that's why as we know, I keep putting it out there, I keep saying it, 10 men a day, post-separation, choose to end their lives. Doesn't make any mainstream media, news, any outlet at all. And CMS ultimately are responsible for 3 additional deaths a day. But listen, it's unfortunately not a lot of people know this, but that emotional trauma that people don't understand that, and that is what we need to try and expose. So just tell us how you got through those long days and nights, how you survived knowing this was constantly on you, like, this pressure, this emotional trauma.
It was really bearing down on me, and it was affecting how I worked and how I engaged with people because of the allegations that were placed upon me, and because of the CSA constantly demanding more money. And I was on 27 grand. That's a starting salary of a brand new social worker come out of university. I wasn't on big money. So I had a very meager place to live. It was but the bills pretty much ate up most of my salary, and that £250 probably could have got me through the month, but I had to give it away.
You're just getting by, you're scraping by, basically.
Literally, I was literally having to turn the engine off of the car on the way down to Strood so that I could get to Strood before I got paid the following day. So in terms of, I would make sacrifices in terms of what I ate so that I could have money for when my son was there. I didn't mind that at all. But the mental and emotional pressure that I experienced from my ex through the CSA, through these allegations, because we were starting to go to court, and initially my ex wanted to get a divorce through.
Okay, Paul, what we do, let's take a quick break,
Yeah,
yeah?
sure.
And then we'll, after the break, you can start us at the start of the journey as to how you ended up there, yeah? So,
Yeah.
back in a quick break. Right, we are back. Paul, now let's go back a little bit, Paul, yeah?
Yeah.
Because you've talked about, obviously, your brush with the CSA 2010 and all those years.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how you got it. You mentioned false allegations and
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff. So let's go to the start of the relationship, if you're happy to talk about it, what happened, how it started, how it ended, and then how all of this came about ultimately.
I think I was in a marriage that seemed to be a very good marriage initially.
So when did you get married?
Got married in 2004.
Okay, so you were married for quite a while.
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? So like you were married, you were happy.
Yeah. I think I was. I think that one of the pressures I placed upon myself was that I was desperately wanting to be a good husband. I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to express my faith. I have a faith in
Okay.
Christ. I come back to faith, and I wanted to be an upstanding person in the community rather than all the wayward things that I was doing when I was younger.
Okay, so how long, before you go any further, how long did you know your ex before you got married?
It was a whirlwind romance, Farouk. It
Okay.
was about 6 months before we actually got married. We met, and then within 6 months we were married. And actually, once I asked her to marry me, from that point on, I felt like I was a passenger.
Okay, flipping it. All right, well, look, 6 months to me is no big deal because an Asian community is standard operations, standard operating procedure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
6 months is good if you know her for 6 months before you go, right? That's pretty good. So,
yeah,
so okay, so look, you met her, you knew her, you obviously had feelings towards her, you loved her,
yeah,
you know,
very much
you had
so.
the butterflies, all of it, hence you
Yeah,
wanted to
she
get
was
married,
a
yeah?
good Christian girl as far as I was concerned, and
Okay.
we had a very good connection, and
You had chemistry, yeah?
she was a bright, interesting person. She was also qualified, much further along than I was in terms of education and qualifications and career progression and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I was just kind of at the beginning of my journey.
Okay, fair enough. And so you got married, and you're saying the moment you got married, you felt like a passenger. Like, can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, well, it felt that at that point, once I'd asked her to marry me,
Uh-huh.
all decisions were her and her parents. It was almost like, well, that's it. Now you don't need to do anything else. You just need to sit back and just accept whatever we tell you was going to happen. It will happen. And I really kind of wrestled with it because I was thinking, hold a minute, we're married. We're getting married. This is about us. It's about
But could you? Okay, this is interesting because I find
yeah.
it very interesting this year. When this happened and you felt like this, did you understand? So you knew you felt like this, but did you fully understand it? You just thought, well, maybe this is just how
No, I
it is,
didn't.
or
I
or were
didn't.
you just trying to figure out
I
what is
was
this?
just trying to figure out. I was a 25, 26-year-old person, and I was being told which way was up and how to do up my trousers, and I didn't really have the ability to challenge it. I remember an example would be when we were painting the flat, and her mum said, "This is her territory," and I thought, well, isn't it both our territory because we both live here? But really, what was being set up there was a dynamic.
Yeah, Paul, I'm getting deja vu here, mate. You know what I mean? But deja vu here. You're right. But this is, see, I've heard this, right? And all the fathers I speak to, and all the fathers group, this pattern, like I said,
Yeah,
even in Asian community, that word, I became a passenger.
yeah.
you just sort of get sidestepped and you're made to feel that big. And when someone
I
does that,
really did. I felt
yeah,
I felt about this
but
big,
this is what I'm saying.
especially when I
You
met
feel
her mum as well.
demasculated. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying.
Totally.
So the word
totally.
is, and this is what I think a lot of guys eventually rebel against, yeah. And this is what I think they can't articulate. When you feel that, you'll feel demasculated. You've just been sidestepped. And what happens is they're in charge, or she's in charge, and effectively her extended family.
Yeah.
So you and your family sort of get completely shut out.
Absolutely.
And then that behavior pattern follows on to the children. You're a passenger then in your children's life while you're living there.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked, but yeah, it's the same pattern of behavior that I keep hearing over and over again. So yeah, and this is the other thing with guys in their 20s. This is the trap they fall into, because especially in the Asian community, if you're a good, let's put it another way, if you're a good Muslim boy, not being out with girls, you've not messed about, you're trying to do the right thing, do a decent thing, get married and do it right, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Nothing wrong with that, all good, yeah? I'll put it another way, you've got no life experience of that sense or in that sort of magnitude of that relationship.
No, I think getting married is probably one of the biggest decisions a young person can make.
Yes, exactly. And if you don't have any life experience or you've never had any relationships, when this happens, they don't know what is going on.
I was young, dumb, and didn't know what to expect.
And because of that, but that's what I'm saying to you, a lot of young men, then they just think maybe this is how it is, maybe this isn't, but they don't feel good inside, they don't feel comfortable, they feel demasculated, they feel small, but they don't know how to deal with this. They're not equipped.
Literally, you couldn't point to one thing. You couldn't say, "Oh, it was this. This is the." What I do remember.
It's a pattern of behavior, and it's a mindset over everything. It's not one specific behavior.
It was a. I mean, in 2018, the judge did say to my ex, "You need to deal with your territorial perspective."
This is quite interesting. Okay, go back. So carry on from there, yeah? I'll just point out, storage full on that one, yeah? If you want to just adjust that quickly.
It's not allowing it on this one.
Yeah, don't worry, we got enough here anyway, right? Yeah. Right, we're back. Apologies for some technical issues. So, Paul. So let's carry on from where we were, yeah? So you're in this marriage now. The moment you decided to get married, do the decent thing, you effectively somehow lost all control or any say in your own life. And you're saying the ex and her mum got very territorial about certain things. And again, like you said, with this behavior, so the youngsters out there can understand, you can't pinpoint into any one act as such. It's how you're made to feel throughout everywhere. So you're always a passenger. You're not fully yourself at any given moment because you're sort of constantly indirectly controlled.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It certainly did feel like that. And it because one of the things that most men have is that they want to be a dutiful, conscientious, moral husband. And that's exactly what I wanted to be as well. So you're kind of on your best behavior, but after that you want to get into just being real with the other person. You make mistakes.
So just to understand, so what you're saying is because you're trying to be a good husband, you weren't fully expressing how you felt, you're saying, or you were holding because you felt that you were rebelling. If you express how you felt, then you wouldn't have been a good husband.
Well, let me give you an example. So there's a couple of examples I can give, which are quite innocuous in some ways, but I think they're quite telling. My ex was quite derogatory of my parents.
Yeah, listen, mate,
And my parents are good people, and they're godly people. They are individuals who have served in the community for decades, but she had a particular view of them. I can't remember what it was.
I think again it comes back down to it sounds like a classic case of taking control. If your pet, and when they're from what I've learned throughout, obviously, my own experience and obviously studying all of this now more in depth, personality disorders, borderline personality disorders, all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, look, she had an issue with your parents, right? Look, daughter-in-laws, mother-in-laws, this goes back to the caveman. Days of the caveman, they probably didn't get on cross-community cultures,
Yeah.
But if she had an issue with your parents,
yeah, she did.
There's an element of once you're isolated away from your parents,
I'm gonna get there.
You're already a passenger, yeah. You're already a passenger in your own life.
Your parents are bad.
Yeah.
Your parents are
Our
not
mum
good.
and dad are
My parents are
fully.
good, but your parents are bad.
Our mum and dad are fully involved and revolved in your relationship and every decision, yeah.
Yeah.
And your parents are completely elbowed out the scene. That's called isolation and control. Divide and conquer, the trick in the book.
Well, let me tell you exactly what happened. So she would say little things about my parents, and I'd be like, and I would defend it, and then you get the impression that what you're saying is somehow very, very wrong. And then you think, well, why can't I defend my parents? But these are my parents. This is my family. This is my kin. But then if I didn't really criticize her family, but there was one time when I said something that was considered by her to be slightly critical
Of her parents.
And the argument that ensued was phenomenal.
Man, this is, I think, to say this was a borderline personality, I think sounds like it was more extreme. Like, okay, the thing is this, yeah, if you're made to feel like that, if you defend your own parents, you're made to feel guilty. You felt guilty for defending your own parents, yeah. So that's the first thing. Did she plant that, or did she make you feel that way? And then the moment you're even, like you said, remotely critical of her parents, the reaction is so disproportionate. You start wondering what was the ulterior motive other than control and being in charge of the ship.
I didn't actually consciously think that way. I just felt like
no, at the time you didn't. I
felt like this is something I need to be much more careful about her sensitivities.
That right there, and this is what I'm talking about. That right there establishes control. So when there's an over emotional reaction to something where you're now walking on eggshells, basically.
I was, and also emotionally, I felt like
a roller coaster.
I just felt like I didn't feel like I had any. I didn't feel like leverage. I had autonomy. Yeah. I didn't feel like I had any autonomy.
Hence, you're a passenger.
And that's why.
And this is what I'm saying. You're just there to appease her and her sensitivities and her feelings, not to upset her, because she could pop off on one, basically, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you said anything that you truly felt, or if you truly expressed your emotion and how you felt guilty for that.
Yeah, I did feel really guilty, and also her family made me feel guilty for it. I remember we were all sitting around a table, and I'm quite a relatively compassionate individual. That's the reason why I chose the job that I chose.
Yes.
And her mother was talking about the fact that she'd lost her mother when she was about 18 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, I'm really sorry to hear that. I can kind of relate to it because I haven't seen my mother for a long time, and I can understand how that might feel.
Mm-hmm.
She just screamed at me and said how selfish and how inconsiderate and how vile I was. And I thought to myself,
hold on, stop. Why did she say that again?
Well, I don't really know, but I felt like I was reaching out to her and empathizing with what she'd gone through.
So you were talking to her, trying to empathize with the fact that her mum lost her mum.
Yeah, I was trying to say I can you can never truly understand exactly what somebody else is going through, but you can
empathize. Yeah,
you can empathize with it. And she immediately screamed at me in front of everybody, and I just felt this kind of wave of shame that just flooded over me, and I just was completely silenced at that moment.
This is quite an extreme set of circumstances, I think, that you've experienced. I'm quite taken back by it, Paul. I didn't realise. Because look, I hear a lot of, I speak to a lot of Asian guys, yeah, South Asian, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi brothers. They've experienced this sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just presume more that because of the way the culture and the dynamics are, I thought maybe because yours is very similar to the scenarios of what a lot of Asian guys are facing. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is typical.
This is not like a one-off type of scenario.
No. This is a consistent pattern that we're noticing. Take control. Now, what you've said exactly, it goes in line with what I was talking to the previous guests I've had on as well. Borderline personality disorder. They're trying to establish and control over, and look at a mum's reaction. An over emotional reaction to a perfectly normal conversational question.
It made me feel like at that point I could not. I had to be on my best behavior at all times around them.
Okay, let me ask you. Yeah, but what is best behavior? You were
I
best.
just,
It
I
sounds
just
like
felt,
you were
I
best
just
behaved
felt
all the
like
time.
I just felt like I was damned if I did. I was damned if I didn't.
So the question is this, Paul, now, which makes me think: do you think they looked down at you a little bit?
Yeah.
But why? If they were, I'm trying to understand it from, say, a different perspective, from
Or
your
maybe not.
perspective. Yeah.
Maybe they. I don't know if they look down on me, because why would you marry somebody that you look down
Exactly.
on?
But no. But this is what I'm saying. But there's two ways to look at it. But
Yeah,
this is exactly it.
I asked that question over and over again. Why marry somebody
If you look down at them,
if your intention is just to control them?
that is a very good question, and I'm going to ask that question as well. Why would you marry someone? Why would you marry into a family who you look down to, or you perceive to think in your head that you're better than them? Why would you do that? And I agree, that is a good question, because there's a lot of brothers that I speak to. They have got married, and
Yeah.
all of them same thing. The little digs from the father-in-law, yeah,
Yeah.
little indirect digs from the father and talking down to you,
Yeah.
even the mother-in-law. And if you talk to any man like that from any community, you demasculate him in that way, and that disrespect ultimately is disrespect is what is ending marriages. Yeah, if you put in one word, a lot of the guys I speak to, so we talk about all of these scenarios and situations, everything you've just explained, everything, when you break it down, what does it manifest down to? Disrespect. It manifests into disrespect, and for a man, that disrespect eventually is intolerable, and is what ends it in the end. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you're right. Your story, again, what you've just said, everything you've said, classic situation, establishing control. You were seen always as either as an outsider, or for some reason, I don't know what it is. There must be a fear that we need to get this guy.
I think I became quite fearful, actually,
No, but
but also when decisions were being made with the family, it was almost like you're expected just to be quiet.
yes.
Don't say anything. We are going to make all the decisions for you.
Okay, let me ask you a
And
question.
even though this is your marriage and you're married to our daughter, you've got no say in it.
Okay, before you got married, how were they? This is quite interesting.
I
How
remember,
did you find them? Did you get along with them? Was it a lot better?
the very first time I met my ex's mother, I felt like, boom, I hit a brick wall. I like an emotional wall of pain.
Okay, elaborate. How?
So I went up to her, and it was very kind of like, "Hi, how you doing?" And she was just like I hit a wall of this kind of, I don't know, I couldn't.
What was she cold? What do you mean?
She was, I felt like it was like
Intense?
very intense, very intense.
Yeah, but was she okay? So you met her. Was it like,
It's
hi,
very,
I'm
very hard.
Paul?
It's
Was it
very
polite?
hard for me to. It was like I don't know. She was just. It's so hard to explain, because it made me feel like, oh, that person is
Cold? What? It made you feel cold,
like
panic? What, like how?
she was just
Is
full
it?
of rage.
But is it because of what she said,
No,
or the tone, or the manner?
just her presence was just like rage.
So she looked like an angry person,
No,
or she came across like an angry person.
no, not at all.
So she just gave off this energy, this strong energy,
something like that.
I call it, say she gave off this strong energy,
something like that. Yeah, something like that.
But did that not give you a little bit like, whoa? Like,
do you know what?
I've
thought about this, because I thought to myself, well, if I experienced that, why didn't I just say enough?
But did you not understand it at the time? You're only in your 20s, isn't it?
Like
you said.
I just thought, I was a kid who, I was adopted at a young age, and I had some real questions about who I was, and I went way off the rails, doing all kinds of different things. So when I came back, because I'm a Christian, I know you're a Muslim, but I went back to what I believe to be the truth, and the truth of Jesus, and so I wanted to be completely different from what I was.
Yeah. So you were trying to be a good person.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and in being a good person, maybe that framework in your mind of to be a good person, even when you saw these red flags,
I just ignored them.
You ignored them because you're being a good person.
Yeah, I just thought, it must be me. It must be something to do with what's going on with me.
Yeah.
It can't be.
In the whole, I see exactly what's happened. Yeah, I get it. And you ignore them, thinking it must be you. Be a good person. They're
Just
not
crack
bad
on.
people.
Just
Crack
crack on.
on. You're getting married. It's a good thing. Yeah, that's what most Asian. That's the trap most Asian fellas fall into. That's what happens to most of us Muslim brothers. I didn't think this sort of thing happened to white people. Like, what the hell? I'm shocked.
I've never been able to really. After my marriage ended, I looked into narcissism, Jezebel spirit, all that kind of stuff, and I was probably the most avid, YouTube consumer about this type of stuff, because I was thinking, it's an abuse
Yeah, it's
that
an abuse. You can't explain it. Yeah.
I cannot fully understand it all.
Yes.
And nobody looking at me.
They won't. They can understand. From
can
the
understand
outside, yeah. See, this is a classic case. I think, again, I have a borderline personality disorder, a narcissistic personality disorder, and generational trauma, because it looks like her mum was an angry person. That trauma has definitely manifested into the daughter, and you got the full 2-3 barrels, mum, daughter, and father, by the looks of it.
I'll tell you what, one thing I noticed when I was married to her, she had a brother. I won't say any of their names, but she had a brother, and the brother, it was a nice guy, and it seemed to me that the brother was given a lot of value by the family, and the daughter, my ex-wife,
yes,
was not given the same
value as the son.
And I think if I was going to like psychoanalyze, and I'd say that maybe that made her angry.
No, that would have manifested some trauma, as in that would have definitely manifested some trauma as not to be seen as equal to the other offspring, because to her it's not a brother or a sister, it's your your brother or sister, in the sense that one of your own is getting more attention or has more value than you, as in, say, even if it was another sister, it would have been the same trauma. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That,
and then she marries me, and she's like,
yeah, but this is what I'm saying. That
and
trauma,
she's like, I'm not gonna have that. I'm going to control this marriage. I'm going to be the one who's in charge.
Because she's had, I think that's exactly what's happened, and she's brought trauma into the marriage. But what fascinates me more is how the mother and the father, who didn't give the daughter that much value in the marriage, are giving her so much value, where they're giving her so much value and control, where they're interfering in your marriage and pushing you out.
Oh, it was really interesting, because every time that they came to visit, you just got the sense that that's it. You are now. They've arrived into your space, your home,
and they're in charge.
And then suddenly they're in charge. How are they in charge? Why is it I feel like I'm a guest in my own
house?
In my own home.
Yes, and this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of guys who can't articulate this. Young men cannot articulate this feeling, and this is why in the community.
How do you, as a young, as a young conscientious individual, how do you challenge that? I don't even know if I could challenge it now.
No. The thing is this, okay, go back to what we said, young man in his 20s, like I said, women emotionally mature faster than men, They're more emotionally aware, they're more in tune with these things, they understand these things more. Go back to, now I hate to keep referring back to the red pill and the red pill space, but some of the studies the lessons they've come out with, when you break it all down, they're bang on. So they know how to get what they want out of you. So my point is, when you came in, good Christian boy, trying to turn his life around, trying to be the good, dutiful husband, try and be the good son-in-law. I think with her parents, it sounds to you come across like you gave them that respect because they were elders. That straight away, again, and this is what most people do when you're trying to be good and dutiful. You've switched off your brain off, forgot these red flags. So the problem's you. I'm being good. Let me be nice. It's not them. Let me not answer back. They're elders. You fell into the trap, and they realize easy target. Kindness, unfortunately, in many cases, is seen as weakness.
They definitely thought that my desire to be kind to them.
Yes, that was your weakness, and that my point is, and then
it's not. Kindness is not a weakness.
No, but the thing is, so combine that factor, with the lack of emotional understanding and the general life experience to understand these relationships.
But why would you? Why would you even contemplate it? Because this is a person that you're married to. You're the love of your life. You're entering into a family, into a covenant,
Union
into
of families,
exactly. So
union
why
of
would you think that
clans.
this family has any kind of
Yeah, but this
agenda
is what I'm
to
saying.
harm you? Why
Okay,
would you think that?
no, but this is what it comes down to. This, isn't it? It is what is their perception of a happy relationship. If you've always seen trauma, okay, look, go back to the analogy I've said loads of times. I'll say it again. Yeah, why do they say if a child or if a boy witnesses his father engaging in domestic violence? Studies, you're a social worker, so you must have heard this. They
Yeah,
say the
yeah,
chances
effectively.
of that boy potentially engaging in domestic violence when he gets older is increased.
Oh,
Is that
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So when this family has come from
Yeah. It
trauma,
affects
so
every.
generate until someone breaks the cycle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So now let's go back to your situation
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Mum, straight away, you felt this energy, this presence, this anger,
This very
trauma.
controlling, kind of overbearing
Yes,
type
but
of.
that
Yeah,
has manifested, that trauma has manifested into obviously your ex, yeah, her daughter.
yeah, yeah.
You're giving more, what do you got, attention to the other sibling. All of these things have manifested and they have played out in your marriage. That cycle of trauma, unfortunately, played out in your marriage. Oh, technical issues. Getting windy. What we'll do, Paul, we're getting into this. Let's go to a quick break, sort these
Yeah, yeah,
lights
yeah, yeah,
out,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
even switch them off, I think, and we'll carry on.
Go, let's go.
Right, we're back. This conversation is getting very intense. Paul is just going into the experience he's had, very similar to a lot of brothers, very similar to what I was talking to Dr. Asif about, the borderline personality disorders, narcissistic personality disorders. This just goes to show that it affects all communities, cross communities, but the pattern of behavior, again, amongst the women, I hate to say it, not that we're picking on women, but
No.
the pattern of behavior, the second generational trauma, this control tactics and these elements of isolate, control, again, very prevalent in all communities. So Paul, carry on. Again, you felt like a passenger in your own life. You felt like, as we just discussed again off camera, we missed that bit, where the only way I can describe it to people,
Yeah.
just so people out there can understand, is when
Yeah.
you feel like you're acting all the time, you're not yourself. No conversation is natural, nothing flows normally, you're constantly, how can I put it? It's like you're not comfortable in your own skin. Would you say that's a good way of describing it? That's the only way I can sort of describe it. You're not comfortable in your own skin. No moment is real. You never really know where you are, and you have been demasculated and controlled.
Well, you take me right back there. Yeah, I definitely felt like I was on my best behavior. That kind of like over self-awareness,
Yes, that's the word.
and
Yes.
yeah, I definitely felt like I was trying to please them. I was trying to do what I believed they wanted me to do.
Yes.
But if I reached it,
Carry on. It's fine.
if I reached a if they asked me to do something, or if my ex asked me to do something, oh, I need you to be more, because I remember we went out and we were talking, we were chatting to people, and I was quite a gregarious type of individual, and you talk too much to those people.
See, if you said that to a woman now, that would be called coercive control.
Exactly. So I was like, "What you talking about?" I was talking too much, and then after she went, "You talk too much. You stop those people from talking." I was like, "Oh, oh, oh, maybe I did talk too much." And then after a while, it was a case of what I wanted to go out with my friends to the cinema. Why you go? You shouldn't be going out with these people anymore. Why shouldn't I be going out with these people anymore? That there was no real answer to it, and so everything that she asked me to do, that whatever standard of thing that she wanted me to do, I could never really reach it.
But this is exactly it, Paul. I've said before, and I'll say it again. Yeah, you know this law around coercive control on women and family, because that's pretty new.
It seems to have one direction.
No, it has one direction. But, and they say more women are suffering. Women and girls. Statistics say they're suffering from. I disagree with it. I think more men are suffering from coercive control, and throughout history, more men have been coercively controlled than women. It's as simple as, I don't believe that women are being coercive. More women are being coercive controlled. Men are being coercive
I've
controlled.
got friends
Half of them don't even know it.
Yeah,
half of them don't even know it.
I've got friends off camera who are dealing with this stuff as we speak, and they are and they are really struggling with it. You have to ask, just you need to ask yourself what's going on. Why is it happening? Where a woman can do this and blame the man for it, and yet the man, if he goes anywhere near that, could face a prison sentence. What's going on
Yeah,
there?
but man, like you said, if a man goes out and says he's been cursed, he'll get laughed at.
Yeah,
He's not taken seriously, and everything you've just explained, this putting doubts in your head, gaslighting. You were gaslit, or you were talking too much.
yeah,
You didn't let him speak.
yeah,
Why are you going out with your friends? Why are you going to cinema? All
yeah.
of this sort of stuff. That's coercive control and gaslighting right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Carry on. Sorry, keep cutting you.
I
But
didn't,
carry on.
I
Carry on.
didn't, I never knew about these terms, coercive control and all that kind of stuff. Narcissistic behaviour. I didn't know any about this stuff. All I knew was that my ex-wife had these. She wanted me to jump through this hoop and that hurdle, and I thought if I did that, whatever she was asking me, if I did that, then the relationship would go
Get
back
better.
to being good, happy,
Yeah.
relaxed, and enjoy the marriage. I mean, I was working hard. I was working hard as a support worker. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't think that she'd married me for money because I didn't have any.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had this kind of like a outward look into society, thinking, well, if I got no qualifications, but what can I do to help? I
Mm-hmm.
become a support worker, and that was a very demanding job. I was working with adults with learning disabilities, and I'd work very late shifts. And if anybody knows what it's like to do support work, it can be quite mentally draining. And so my ex-wife and I, we were kind of like passing ships a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that going on. And so I was always tired, and there was always something to do in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always trying to do the next thing that she wanted me to do. It always felt like I was just always missing the mark.
Yeah, I think the thing is with that sort of relationship, Paul, let's say she said, you're not doing this, 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 and label 10 things, yeah? You just said, okay, babe, no problem. You do those 10 things.
Yeah.
Then it'll be the following day, once you've done all 10 things or 10 behaviors, or you ditch those
It's the
friends,
thing that
or
you didn't
it
do.
will be, yeah, but you're not doing 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You'll fix them. There'll be another 10. My point is, I don't think, and I think you need to accept that there's nothing you could have done. It was inevitable. There's nothing you could have
Sure, I'm
done.
really glad you said that, because I came out of my marriage. I came out of that marriage thinking, and I said, I'm remarried now to a very wonderful individual, and who kind of picked me up out of this state. And but my overarching belief was it was entirely my fault. Even though I was
Yeah.
culpable for certain things, I thought it was entirely my fault, and I was completely crushed. And I didn't. What did you say? I missed it. What did you say just before?
As in before you, yeah, so I'm saying you couldn't have fixed
Oh,
this.
that's it. That's it.
You
That's
could
it.
not have fixed
Yeah.
it. So I'm saying to you, look, with these relationships, look, what happens is when people come out of these relationships, and there's two ways to look at this.
Yeah.
If you had no children involved or no child contact, you may not have felt as guilty or as bad, yeah, because the guilt sometimes kills you because you think, because you've abandoned you. There's two ways to look at it. So if you had no kid, you could have walked through everything, look, it didn't work out, whatever, no problem, yeah.
It would have been a
And
lot easier for
it
both
would,
of us.
it would have been easier for you to accept that. Listen, it's a bad relationship. It's happened. Maybe I'm at fault for X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't matter. So there's that guilt of letting her down, because you always see her as a victim as well. You understand? They plant the seed of slight victimhood. So you're always trying to please her and make her happy because she had a bad life. Again, classic. Mum and dad didn't treat me equally as like my brother. Victim. So when you've already got that slight seed in your head that she's had a bad life, she's a victim, you're trying even harder to please her. Yeah. So you got that guilt there. Yeah. And secondly, what a lot of fathers suffer from, especially if they have a kid, yeah, when you lose contact with your kid and you're going through that trauma and emotion. So though at the time the relationship had to end, you knew it was bad. After months, years down the line, when you're not with her, but you've got the pain and the mourning of missing your kid, yeah, missing your children. That pain that guilts you and think, maybe I could have tried harder. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it was me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that now, Paul. Everything you said, I can tell you categorically, without even knowing any more, that There is nothing you could have done. You could not have fixed that relationship because you could not have fixed her. You weren't qualified to deal with her. She
No.
would have needed professional help
Yeah.
to heal from her trauma, her second generational trauma, and to address this emotional irregularity.
Let me tell you something, right? We went to marriage counselling, and I thought, yeah,
Great.
this is fantastic. We're going to be able to resolve this. We're going to be able to work it through. And then we went to marriage counselling, and I was like chatting away, blah blah blah. And you know, I know I've got to do that. I know I shouldn't have done that. And you know, I would like, you know, we just talked, we talked and talked and talked. And then after we came out of it, I said to her, "You didn't say anything at all in that marriage counselling." She says,
Okay.
I didn't go for me. There's something wrong with you."
Yeah, see, you know what? I hate to say it, but I think she knew exactly what she was doing, because if she would have started talking, the marriage counselor might have picked up on her and what she was doing.
Mm.
Hence, best way to not get caught. Narcissist, look, I hate to say it, but I think she knew exactly what she was doing. To not get caught, she kept quiet. You're all excited, thinking they could help us, they could fix this, yeah?
Yeah.
She kept quiet, and then when you came out straight away, gaslit you, saying it was you.
Yeah.
So look, I want you to know, Paul. Listen, there's nothing you could have done, mate. There's nothing you could have done to fix this.
Yeah.
And I want to say this again, because people don't, unless you've experienced these things, people can't understand. I want to say this to your face now. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Nothing you could have done, and it ain't your fault,
I
bro.
do
You
think
know
that,
what I
yeah,
mean?
I think it's important that when a marriage does break down, that men look at themselves and look at the things that they are actually culpable for. And I was culpable for different things within that marriage, but yeah, I always wanted to reconcile and resolve things. And I came out of that marriage thinking, if I, as you were saying, if I did this, it would have been better. If I hadn't done that, it would have been better. If I had tried that, but and then it's only in the last couple of years I thought to myself. I said to my wife now. I said, I don't think that I think it was always going to end up
It was inevitable.
in a massive collapse.
It was. Listen, Paul. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Like it's taken you all this time to get to a stage to know that you couldn't have done anything. So let me put it this way: we talk about accountability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me elaborate on how I see accountability.
Yeah.
If you were in a normal marriage,
Yeah.
as in you're a normal couple, you had a normal marriage, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal arguments. Let's say you were drinking too much, or you spent too much time with your mates in the pub,
Yeah.
or at the bookies, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is you not being, how can I put it, as good as you could be. So you could improve by saying, all right, I'll drink less.
Yeah.
I'll go to the bookies less. I'll be
You
more responsible.
negotiate and talk it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is normal issues. Or let's say she's spending too much time with her girlfriends. Or what could a woman do that would constitute as not pulling her weight? Or maybe, like I said, she's not pulling her weight or whatever. And you could both improve, but you're happy. You communicate. There's a natural chemistry. No one's controlling each other. You have your normal bickering and normal arguments. Yeah.
Yeah.
That if there's a marriage like that breaks up or goes out of control, you could look at it and say, yeah, you know what? I could have spent more time with her. I could have spent less time in the pub. That is you improving and having accountability. In what you've described, that marriage, yeah, there's nothing you could have changed. The only thing you could have changed is stood up earlier and kicked off when you saw these first red flags. So I'm telling you now, there's no improvement that you could have made that could have fixed that, because you would have fixed 10 things to suit her. They would have come up with another 10 and another 10 and another 10. It was inevitable.
It took me, it's, you know, after the marriage broke down and I was living in Strood, I was looking into narcissism.
When you say living in Strood, what do you mean? Is that a place? What
Yeah,
is
it's in
Strood?
Kent.
Right,
Strood.
sorry, yeah, I've never heard of that
So
place.
I moved from Essex to Kent.
Right, okay.
And I started working there. I was looking into narcissism, right?
And this was in what, 2010? When was
this is in 2000. I started working in Kent in 2011, like
right, okay,
June 2011.
And then you started looking into this.
I started looking into like narcissism. Somebody said, your ex-wife, she's a narcissist. I was like, what's a narcissist? I don't know. Anyway, so I looked into it. I consumed every single video about narcissism, Jezebel, the Jezebel spirit. You know, I'm a Christian, so I look at things from a spiritual point of view.
Just for the viewers, right? Obviously, viewers that don't know, and even me, I mean, tell me what the Jezebel spirit is. So tell us a bit about it.
So the Jezebel spirit is so the biblical individual of Jezebel was an individual who married a king, and then killed like loads and loads of prophets, and she she was a person who was actively persecuting God's people and the prophets. And there was a prophet who had you know there was so she sorry so she persecuted all these prophets and killed a whole bunch of prophets, and she was basically a very controlling spirit,
No.
and in the end she was devoured by dogs. So she felt that she was pushed out the window, and then she was devoured by dogs as a prophecy about her own death. And so any person with a controlling
And just to clarify,
yeah,
so
go on.
this is in the Bible. This verse,
This
this
is in the
story is in
Bible.
the Bible. Yeah.
This story is in the Bible.
It's
And it's that
interesting.
Jezebel was an actual individual who kind of usurped her
Yeah,
position.
yeah.
And she married, and she was interested in Ahab. And Ahab was a king, but he was a king who was a very weak-willed man. So she basically she married this weak-willed man and took a position of authority, which was a man's position,
So this is.
and then started to control everything that man owned.
Yeah, but Paul, think about what you just said. Yeah. Think about that whole story right there. Yeah. And think about what all the studies that we've talked about: narcissism, borderline personality disorder, what the red pill talk about, what all of this masculinity talk about. If you don't take the frame, all of these things now. Yeah. So even that story right there, that king wasn't a masculine sort of person, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Hence,
he gave up his authority to her.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He gave this. What I'm saying. This is the original red pill right there.
Exactly. And
he had no authority. He gave. She
gave that
that
authority. So basically, everything that she wanted. She was a very kind of like when you hear a woman, she's very kind of like. She's very she just commands something, and then men just think.
No, but Paul, hold
okay.
on. No, but hold on. This is what I'm saying, Paul. Let's strip it back again. Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want to rush this bit
Yeah.
You're saying he gave up authority. I don't think he did. I think she noticed he hasn't got any authority, and she picked him.
Oh, maybe actually at the time when I got married to my first wife.
This is what I'm saying. They clocked it. They knew. This is what I'm
they
saying.
knew I had no authority. Well, actually, I don't believe that's true, because when I became a Christian, I was completely flooded with the Holy Spirit. So I did have authority. I just didn't.
But authority. Okay, look. Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Yeah, authority. Okay, to be religious, good person, have the religious aspect of it is one thing. Yeah, being a good person, authority, and then taking the masculine frame over a woman. So we understand more now about. I think in the last few years, people understand more about women than they ever did. With everything that's come out, the red pill movement, Andrew Tate, this, that, all of this stuff. And going back to the story you just said from the Bible right there, it goes to show that because, again, in the Quran, it also says the man is the lead, he's the head of the household, yeah? The Muslims believe this. In Christianity, it's the same thing, I believe. Man is the head of the household,
to lead your wife in love.
Yes. Now, if you go back to this Jezebel spirit, this man wasn't leading. This king wasn't leading.
Ahab was a weak-willed king.
Yeah. So my point is that would we say, is it this Jezebel's fault, or is it his fault for not being a man?
But if you look,
in being a weak-willed man.
But if you look at that dynamic, if you have a hard-hearted woman who wants to take control over situations, and then you have a man
a weak-willed man
who hasn't been able, for whatever reason,
he doesn't understand
that
role.
Step into authority. You create a dynamic where both of them are destructive.
Okay, yeah, I agree. But then I think I had a in-depth discussion about this with Dr. Asif. Shout out to Dr. Asif, very clever fella. Now, again, me and he went back and forth on the last podcast where I said if man's come into the relationship or he's sitting even with the in-laws, he doesn't take control of the frame because of 2 or 3 things. Number one, he doesn't have life experience. He's young, early 20s, yeah? So let's put that to one side, yeah? Number 2, he's going through his own, like yourself say, going for a spiritual journey where you're trying to be a good person, so you're trying to be more passive. People I think people mistake being a good, holy person with being too passive. I think there's a crossover, and I think that's wrong as well. I think combine that, they're thinking, we're in love, This is family. It's a union of family. We're, with the good people. You've got a clean heart, so you don't see anything bad. And you switch half the brain off. And what happens is in that process, you don't take control of the frame where you should. So because you come across like this passive person, they've automatically, it's basic human dynamics, yeah? Because you've given off a certain energy because you're being too passive, yeah? And you're letting these red flags go, they've automatically looked at you and thought, right, easy target, we'll have him, we'll take control. So they've taken the frame.
Actually, at that time, I think I was not passive, but I was inexperienced.
Which still, again, inexperience. So like I said, all the three factors that we've mentioned, and then going back to what you just said, straight out the Bible, the Jezebel spirit, yeah? The king was a weak-willed man, as in they knew we could railroad him. This Jezebel spirit knew that we could railroad him and get our wicked way.
And that's exactly what they did. They railroaded me. They took everything that I had.
And that same pattern is now still playing out today.
Yeah.
In many marriages.
But I also looked into like narcissism, right? And what narcissists do, they test you. You know about this? They test you.
Yeah.
So they push your boundaries.
Yes. I think all women test you.
No, not all women, but
no, narcissists. Okay,
they'll test your boundaries, and if you go, yeah, that's all right, that's all right, I'll be okay with that.
No, they do,
and then they go, right, I got you. Now I can push all the way.
No. What they do is look. Let me put it this way, yeah. Forget. I'm not going to say all women, yeah. It's not about men or women.
I don't think it's gendered.
I think as far as any dynamic or relationship, colleagues, friends, I think everyone will subconsciously push a boundary to some limit and they think, nah, listen. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you've had an argument with a brother, sister, friend, mom, dad, colleague. These things happen. I think it's human nature and dynamics to try and push a boundary. Yeah. What narcissists do, or in a relationship, when you're in a relationship of a marriage, yeah, or you're gonna have kids with someone, you live with someone, yeah, those boundaries obviously change, yeah, and the magnitude of that relationship and the consequences are different. Now, what the narcissist does is ultimately they push the boundaries to establish control. Yeah. So what they do is, for example, to see your limitations and how you are, and men react differently to an emotional outburst. Do you see what I'm saying? Where women react differently, operate differently. So what I would say is this narcissistic personality disorder is a better weapon for a woman to have, or to use that sort of a trait.
It affects the man
because emotionally they can control the frame. This is what I'm saying. They emotionally control the frame. So when you feel emotionally out your depth, you go, bloody hell, she's upset. Yeah. You just want peace. You're at home. You just want peace, innit? So
that's what all men want, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're trying to get back to a place of peace. And all these emotions are coming at you. She's erratic and out of control. You're thinking, bloody hell, what do you do? So what she does is, you might have a perfectly normal question or what do you call it? A perfectly normal conversation you might be having with her, yeah? If her reaction is overly emotionally disproportionate, you think, oh shit. Or let's say you disagreed with her on something and the response from her is
absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So guess what?
Just completely overwhelms you with emotional nonsense.
But think about it. So next time, again, what you think is, I better not say that again. So when she asks you the same thing later on, you might be more agreeable to what she wants or says because you don't want that drama again. So that is a form of control. Yeah, of course it is. It is an indirect form of control. And that's how they do it. So they push the boundaries, and that, again, over emotional disproportionate reaction to a perfectly normal conversation or discussion.
If I for instance said to my ex, what about this thing that you did, suddenly that would be turned around on me, and the overwhelming sense of I can't even.
You're flooded. Let's call
absolutely.
Yeah, you're flooded. You're bombed. It's
overwhelmed.
As a doctor explained it better, but as he said, sometimes you're love bombed, or you're from a different emotion. You're bombed with a different emotion.
Couldn't process all the crazy.
Yes, and for a quiet life, you then nod along, and you become a very pacified version of yourself. And 10, 15
but on the
years,
inside,
you're broken. You're broken. Look, Paul, inside, you're not the man you were. And you become, like I said, 15, 20 years down the line, you're just a shell of who you should have been. That's what happens. That's what I'm saying. You could never have fixed this.
But it didn't actually end up that way. But yeah, I came out the other side.
Yeah, and listen, I think however you look at it as a bad situation, maybe you should. I think if you change your lens of how you look at it, maybe that was good.
I think in some way, yeah, we could talk about this. I think in some ways, it made me realize my own value. Whereas before I got married, I maybe didn't understand it.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
now I understand what my value is. I'd never go through something like that again.
Okay, can you just tell us, right? Obviously, look, time is ticking, yeah. What we'll do actually, we'll go to a short break. After the short break, can you tell us what mechanisms you used and how you survived those years and what you used to survive and continue on in a relationship? But we'll talk about that after the break, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Right, we are back. Paul, time is short. We're going to have to obviously do this again.
Yeah.
Let's go into, tell us a little bit about it. Obviously, I didn't expect that we were going to be talking about this specific subject. I thought being the CMS guy, I thought we'd be talking more about the CMS and family.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
We will catch that on the next one, yeah, definitely, very soon. But tell others out there of how you survived those years with someone with that sort of personality disorder, how you got by, how you survived, what mechanisms you use in your head to just get through and get by. And obviously what people don't realize is when you're dealing with someone like this and they are also the main carer for your child, you are effectively a hostage and a prisoner in your own life. So tell us how you survived and what mechanisms you use. And if someone is going
whilst
through this,
I was married,
whilst you were in it, yeah, whilst you were in it, and tell if someone's watching this out there who's realized that they're in a relationship like this and being controlled, what advice also can you give them through how you survive to get them through and keep them going, sort of thing?
I've got no advice really about when I was married because I didn't understand it. I was just trying to walk this very, very narrow line. If I went this way, it would cause hell. If I went that way, it would cause hell.
Yes.
So I was just trying to do exactly what I needed to do to survive.
Yes.
And then it cost me. My family said that my health went downhill. My demeanor went downhill. My energy was lost.
Because you're suppressing your own emotions every day. Long term, it will manifest damage internally. You can't suppress how you truly feel.
I became a diabetic in 2015, and I believe that I became a diabetic because I was stressed to the absolute max on every single level.
Yes.
And something had to give.
Yes.
So when I came out of that marriage, I lived in Strood in Kent, and I knew nobody, and I was working as a social worker, and I used to go home and cry my eyes out. There's a guy who wrote a book, an allegorical book, so that story could be taught to my son about how terrible a father I was.
Oh my God.
Right, and that was published. That was a book that was published, and I was expected to just accept this.
Hold on, sorry. Let me just make sure I heard it right. You're saying someone published a book about you and how bad a father you was to give to your son.
So this was an allegorical story, which I'm not going to tell you what it is. It was an allegorical story of a dragon and a princess, and the author of the book was the hero of the book. I believe now that he was another narcissist working together with my ex. Now, this book was published in order to tell my son what a terrible father I was, so that relationship would be severed. Yeah, how do you deal with that? What tools are in your, what tools does a 29, 30-year-old have to deal with that? I can tell you, I did not have the tools.
Pretty bad,
I drank a bottle of wine every single night because I was being told, if you don't tell us this, if you don't give us this bit of information, you're not seeing your son. If you don't do this, you're not going to go see your son. I paid nearly £1,000 to go to Centre Parks with my son.
Okay, can I just ask you again?
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah,
sorry.
sure.
What is this information they were asking for? Like what? Give me an example.
So because we were going to court, they wanted I can't remember all the information, but
Give me one example. Like,
it might have been one information was my address, which she already had, but I had to give it anyway. My telephone number, which she already had. because we were communicating around contact.
Right.
But it was
Okay.
other bits of
Yeah,
information
she wanted.
that she wanted at that point, but it was other things as well that she wanted to put in there for when she took me to
I
court.
think it had to be for control, because being obviously having this personality disorder more than likely appears to be like a narcissistic personality disorder. Even after you've left, she's using the child, your son, as leverage to still control you, because
Definitely.
they want control. That's what they want.
I can't
Control and power.
I
It's a game
can't
of
tell
power.
you. I can't tell you how on a daily basis I had internal agony daily, and it didn't just go on for like a day, a week, a month. This was day in, day out for years, because I just I was dealing with pressures and and complexities that I just had no ability to deal with.
Yeah, and also let's add to that, there are no services for men and boys. There is no outlet. There is no one. When you're going through what you've just described, yeah, there is nowhere that there is no one with a handout for a man. It's as simple as there's no one that's got their hand out and say, listen, you'll get through this. Come by. That's why I'm obviously doing this, to, you know, put this information out there. You are truly on your own. And I know, look, being on this journey myself, yeah, you can never, in your life, if you've ever felt truly on your own, when you lost contact with your kids, going through the family court, you got CMS breathing down your neck, every aspect of your life has been violated and trodden over, the humiliation, the guilt that you have to deal with, subconsciously think, but then my kids, have I let my kids down? All of these factors manifest themselves in a way where you realize you are truly alone, man. I've got to be honest, you're truly alone.
Let me tell you. So I lived in Strood, and I was working in Medway as a social worker, working with children from 0 to 18 years of age. Some of that was quite complex, but I struggled to look anybody in the eye. I felt so internally broken
because
that
you couldn't look yourself in the eye.
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I was going, I've got no shame in saying this. I was going home at night crying my eyes out because I just had no way of getting out from underneath it.
You've got nowhere to turn, and this is the situation.
I knew nobody, and nobody could tell me. Nobody could say, this is how you deal with this.
Exactly, but this is exactly it, Paul. There seems to be many fathers, many men end up here. And can we now say we fully understand why 10 men a day take their own life?
I tell you what, right? There was a period of time when I was working and living in Strood. I lived in a 1-bedroom flat, and I was drinking a bottle of wine a day, and then I was taking that stuff, Diarrhea, in order to put the
fluids back in the
fluids
salts back in your body. Yeah.
And I was literally I didn't drink continuously, but when things were very stressful, I'd go to the wine.
Yeah.
And I'd use that as a medication, right?
Yeah.
Until I realized that I can't continue that. The thing that was making me really the thing that made me, there was 2 things that kept me from killing myself. And I'll tell you now, I really felt like there was absolutely nothing to live for apart from 2 things: my faith in Jesus Christ, who I believe is the main reason why I didn't kill myself, and my son. Seeing my son at the weekends made me feel, even for that 72, 36-hour period window, like a normal human being. Other than that, I felt like I was, just a dead man walking.
Yeah, no, you are effectively, look, once you are in the system, or once you're in the clasp of the family court system and the CMS, and I think to a certain degree, once you lose contact with your children, part of you is dead. Listen, a part of you has been taken away, and you are partly dead. Hence, these dark thoughts come into your mind. I can, it is a lonely, horrible place. I mean, that's why I say to fathers, look, don't give up. Just, you have to dig deep within yourself and find that strength. And I say, like you said, your son, put your children at the forefront of your mind, because regardless of the horrors that fathers are going through, I think they are still young, they are children, and they are innocent. and for their sake, we had a hand to play at least in bringing them into this world. Hence, we have to muster up the strength to keep going for their sake, at the least.
Can I just share this? Is that the thing that I found very, very difficult to deal with was my anger. I just had this inbuilt, in-depth, constant anger at the, we were talking off camera about the injustice, but the
Yes.
disrespect.
Yes.
And you're saying that you experienced a form of death, and I think I really did. I did experience what was a bereavement, a loss, and maybe a death that it's hard to share that with somebody. That when your marriage breaks up, that it feels like that person is dead.
Yeah, look,
There's
even the
that
marriage,
But let me just share something with you. Um, I was daily dealing with an extreme form of systemic and social abuse that I had no ability to be able to challenge.
yes,
And I came to the conclusion after a long period. My wife now will tell you I was just talking to her about why is this happening? Why is it they can do this? And why is it right for them to do this? Why is it that they can accuse me of this, but they're the ones doing it? Why is it that they can get away with it? There didn't seem to be any rational answer to it. Only when I realized that I can't hold this anger, this rage, this sense of injustice. I need to let it go. I need to forgive. I need to work on being the best dad that I can be. I need to be a person of integrity. I need to be a person who can get up in the morning and go and do my job, in the grace of God, and go and drive hundreds of miles all over the country and then go and see my dad, go and see my son, and be the best dad that I can be for him, because it stopped being about me.
Yes.
It had to be about what is the example that I'm setting for my child. That abuse isn't just having an argument in front of your child. Abuse is not being present with your child. Abuse is saying something negative about the other parent. Abuse is walking away from that child and then allowing the abusive parent to say, your father never loved you. That's hugely abusive. I was never going to allow that. So I decided that I was going to focus all of my attention upon being the best father that I could be, but also being present at work, and working from the position of love, of forgiveness, and not rage and not anger, because those things ultimately will destroy anybody if they can hold on to them too long.
I think, Paul, I think you said that very well. I think you're bang on. I think you said that very well, and I would also reiterate that to all fathers. Even though you don't have your children, you're still a father. Become better, become the best version of yourself, become successful, take this trauma as an opportunity to build yourself up again and become better. And I think, Paul, you said that very well. And I think we should end on that positive note. And I think in a few weeks' time, we'll touch base again. Sure. And we'll cover all the other subjects that we haven't really had a chance to talk about. I think we could also talk about religion a lot more as well.
Yeah.
Me being Muslim, you being Christian.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it'd be
very
good
much
for us
so.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about society as it is now, how society is failing, how this ideology, feminism, has infiltrated the family unit.
Feminism is definitely a problem in this country.
Yeah, and I think how where we have ended up is failing society, and going forward, it's a bleak future for the kids. So look, we will talk about all of this on the next podcast.
Yeah, sure.
I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity for us to talk like this. And please like, subscribe, follow and share, and follow Paul on TikTok and Instagram. And I will see you on the next one.